Well, that's $700 wasted. So today's I guess kind of a special episode because there's a host of things that went wrong with this car. This is a 2025 Kia Sportage, and this car, not only did it have a bad windshield replacement on it, it's got exposed metal underneath the edges of the windshield that I've seen. We hadn't even got it out yet. I can see it. It was done by a company that advertises themselves as a large outfit, but they don't actually have any technicians as employees. They 1099 and subcontract work out to people in every city they can find and just pop an 800 number in that city and get work in from it. So the problem with that model is if there's a technician inside of a city limits or anywhere in an area where there's a population and they can take on subcontract work at lower profit margins and they have the time to take it on, the reason they have that time is because they're not good technicians to start with. You're not getting good work, so you're calling this 800 number, booking a job with a company that you think is a big outfit that might have it together, and in reality, they're just using bums in every little city everywhere to install windshields for them. So this windshield was installed. It wasn't recalibrated at the same time it was installed. So they scratched it. They didn't recalibrate it. Then they broke the cover that goes over top of the mirror and the camera. And instead of just replacing the cover, they tried to super glue it back together. So there's residue everywhere on the inside of the car. And the residue got in between the camera and the window that the camera sees out of. And now it won't recalibrate. The customer took it to the dealer to have the recalibration performed on it, and it won't recalibrate because they tried to fix a mistake with super glue. And then that dealer charged her like $700 to attempt to do a recalibration. And by the time she got it back, she had this big old bill. The car still isn't functioning properly. Car's still not recalibrated right, and it's all scratched up. There's going to be long-term corrosion issues because it's just everything about this job went wrong. So we're going to go ahead and get this windshield out. I want to show you guys what it looks like underneath it, and we'll get the camera out of it. And maybe I'll go ahead and cut the camera bracket off so we can see what the residue looks like on the window and why the camera can't see through that window properly. And we'll just go over what all went wrong with this job and how you can prevent that and what you need to do to select the proper glass company in order to be able to do these jobs adequately. So we'll wrap into this and I'll get it pulled out. We'll talk about it some more and we'll see what it looks like underneath it. I'm starting to trim this out. I wanted to leave the bottom on here so I could show you one of the methods they used setting this windshield that is not a good method, but now I found something else that I want to point out. This urethane has not been trimmed yet. It's peeling right off because they did not run the bead of urethane in the proper location, and that's a bond failure to body. So I found multiple bond failures on the glass, urethane to glass, because they didn't prep their glass properly. And now I found some bond failure to body because they didn't run the bead in the proper placement or prep the area that they ran the bead properly in order for the urethane to stick to it. So there's some other things here I'm gonna come back to, but I just wanted to show that. Virtually the whole top of the windshield, the urethane was not bonded to the body properly. So a couple different things I want to point out on this specific install of just a multitude of things that I see done wrong. They didn't do a terrible job at actually trimming the old adhesive out, but there is clearly scratching in here that is not primed. It was not taken care of. This is going to come back in corrosion. So it's convenient, as inconvenient as it is for the customer that the job wasn't done right and they have to do it again. They have to fight the insurance company because the customer's out like $1,200 worth of work and nothing was actually done. This right here is going to cause long-term corrosion issues, and now that we can address it immediately after this install was done, we can prevent those long-term corrosion issues. Another thing, if you go back farther in our videos, maybe we can shoot a link to it, but I've got one calling out anybody that does the wiper salute. You roll up, you see a set of wipers standing up on a vehicle and the cowl not pulled off of it, then you know that's a hack job. That cowl should be pulled on nearly every vehicle ever made. I'm not going to say every single one, because there's a couple, but nearly every vehicle ever made, the cowl needs to come off in order to do this job properly. And what happens when you don't pull that cowl first, you wind up with this specific style of urethane on the bottom that we call scooping, or I'm trying to think, the people in the industry, you hear stuffing is what they call it. So basically you run the urethane down in the gap that's at the bottom and you just stuff the windshield into it. Now, it can be modified slightly. You can kind of hover the windshield as you go down, but what you see most commonly is if you run the urethane on the body first and then you go to slip that windshield in, the very high point of the bead right here, when the windshield's coming down and it touches it, it rolls that bead over. Instead of making a straight contact, set the windshield down in the bead, you wind up with a bead that's rolled over. And that's what we see all across the bottom here. There's a couple spots that's not as bad, but let me trim a piece of urethane off so we can see it. It's the worst over the VIN number, but you wind up with a bead of urethane right here. You got your contact patch for your glass and your contact patch for the body, and the bead is rolled over diagonally. So you wind up with a shelf this way on the top, and then on the bottom you wind up with a shelf that is in the opposite direction where the bead was manipulated trying to fit the glass in. So I got that piece trimmed off. Let's look at a piece that isn't trimmed off yet. This urethane, you see this big old shelf right here, and then there's the contact patch. And then I got all this that can roll. I can grab this urethane and roll it up. That's all that urethane that was rolled over. So basically you had a bead standing up like this and they put the windshield in, they shoved it down in and they rolled that bead over. So what you would be looking for is a contact patch that's a 1/2 inch wide when they run their urethane. And instead of that contact patch being a 1/2 inch wide now, that contact patch is an 1/8 inch wide. And while it may have held up just fine in a collision, there's so much risk associated with this because you don't know what it looks like once you get it in. Like they put it in and yeah, they got lucky and it's sealed and it didn't push the urethane bead completely off and it didn't leak. But once it's in, it's in. You can't see what it looks like. So we got the issues with the bead on the car. Now let's come over to the glass. Immediately, right here, no bond, urethane to glass. No bond, urethane to glass through here. There's a spot right there, no bond in this corner. And I bet if I get under this, we can actually peel a lot of this. We're going to see, I could be wrong, right here, peeling right off. So that bead, let me get past my cracks right here. Let's see, this is a little thin. I'm not going to be able to get that to peel because it's too thin, but even like right here, get it started where I can get some fingers under it. Yeah. So it was holding in some places, but the spots, a little bit of time on this windshield sitting in the sunlight, all this stuff would have cut loose because they didn't prep their glass properly. You can see all the dirty marks here. There's tape residue in these corners. So most likely the reason why this is here, they didn't clean their glass good enough. When it comes from the distributor, there's tape in each corner to protect the corners, and then there's a big piece of tape that covers this entire piece. If you look at our other replacement part right here, see there's a big giant piece of tape that covers all our bracketry to protect it and make sure it doesn't get broken during shipping. If you pull that tape off and you don't do your due diligence to get the adhesive from that tape or the transfer from that tape off the glass, this is what happens. It doesn't bond. You wind up with urethane that doesn't stick at all to the glass. So, I mean, that's a mess. So it's just terrible work. And then, because they broke the cover, We got a brand new cover right here we ordered for the customer. They broke her cover. And I'll show you what they broke. I think the other one's probably in the car here. Let me see if I can find it. Using our brand new glass like a table here. So they broke her cover. And if you look at here, there's a shelf, like a clip. There, 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 and there. If you look at this cover, they broke this one, and this one. There was only one clip left. The whole reason this windshield ever even wound up, or this job wound up at our shop, is because this crazy glue they used to try to put this cover back up and hide their mistake was what caused the failure in the camera window. You got residue. Crazy glue, it's crazy because if it gets heated up, it vaporizes and it sticks to the highest surface around it. So like, that's why you got to be in a good ventilated area when you're using crazy glue, because you can inhale the fumes and it's just sticking to everything that it touches. So that's what all this is. You can even see fingerprints and stuff in here. Maybe we should call the sheriff's office, see if we can get them printed up, see if they got a record. But it rose up and it went underneath the camera window. Now this is a sealed camera window, so underneath this camera window, there is no way to get under here and clean it out. So like normally you get some residue or something on here, you could scrape that off, you know. That's what all that is, that residue. That all can scrape off, but because it's a sealed unit, there's no way to scrape that off. So I'll tell you what, I'm actually gonna put a wire cutout tool on it. We're gonna cut the bracket off and let's look at how much residue was under the camera window. Okay. All right, so you see the residue that got inside of the bracket. And let's see if we can put a light on it and pick up some of the other stuff. All of that residue inside of that camera window. That camera can't see through that properly. And these cameras don't work traditionally, like say for example, a video camera like I'm being recorded on right now, where you're capturing, let me see, how's it work, Sean? It's kind of like capturing photons, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so these cameras don't capture photons. What they do is different colors emit different voltages. It's converted into different voltages. So this thing works completely through voltage and not through like photons, the way it communicates with the system. So every color has an associated voltage, with black having 0 volts. Basically, it conducts no voltage. And all the way up to white, which is the most conductive. So, and our targets here, we use to recalibrate these things, are black and white. So if you've got a bunch of white residue inside of the camera window, it thinks it's seeing a target, and there is no target there. Or it thinks it's seeing an image, and there's nothing there. That needs to be clear so that camera can look through it and function properly. But because you had all of that residue right there, that camera failed recalibration. So I think we're going to close it out right here. The reinstall and stuff's not important. We do a bunch of reinstalls for you folks, so you see what it looks like when we're finished and the calibration's over and how everything's functional. These companies, we've got a bunch of issues in our industry along with monopolistic giants, but we also have problems with what we refer to in our industry as laptop shops. People without storefronts, without overhead. A lot of times they'll be running around without a business license, without insurance. If you're looking on Google for a company in your area to do the work on your car, and they don't have a physical address listed, they just offer a service in your area and there is no physical address, choose somebody else. Find somebody local that has an address in your area that's not a storage unit, because that's another trick people do. They'll go and they'll rent a storage unit and list it as a business operation, but it's not an actual shop. So find somebody local, brick and mortar location. You can go in and see them. You can meet the staff. That way you have somebody you can hold accountable if there's an issue. This industry has shifted so much based towards safety, advanced electronics that rely on the windshield being installed properly, being prepped properly, airbags that rely on the windshield staying in place. If you choose somebody truly local with a storefront location, that is going to be your best possible option to make sure if there's something wrong with that windshield, it can be fixed and taken care of, and you can put your car back on the road safely, and your family can get in that car, and you know that you can rely on that vehicle to do what it's supposed to do for the protection of your family. So if they don't list a location, if it's just a service, run away from them. So like I said earlier, we're seeing these, we've actually got them popping up right now in Beaufort County. I'm not going to name names, but there's a service that popped up in Beaufort County, and they got sales reps going around to all the dealers and all the insurance agencies, and they're telling folks that they're locally owned and operated, and they're local right here in town. And realistically, they're out of North Carolina somewhere, and they're just coming in to all these local municipalities and setting up a local phone number that's being forwarded over to an 800 number to an office somewhere in North Carolina. And they've got subcontractors coming from Augusta, North Augusta, Charleston, Columbia, all over the place trying to service these areas. And they're subcontractors, 1099 employees, 1099 subcontractors, not employees. Unlike us, everybody here is a W-2 employee. They receive a paycheck and they get payroll taken out. They're not subcontractors. Everybody here is an employee for Glass Express. But these 1099 subcontractors, if they're not busy enough to get their own work, that's because they're not good enough to get their own work. Stick with somebody local you can trust. So if we can help you out solving any of these issues, any of these hacks are coming into the market, tearing up your vehicles, recalibration issues, not recalibrating cars, windshields cutting loose, all the craziness you see, even the big corporate giants that are doing stuff like this, which there's only one in particular. They got a fancy jingle. Stop by and see us, 820F Paris Island Gateway. It's in Beaufort, South Carolina. Or you can shoot us a call at 843-379-7222. And we help get that taken care of for you. Thanks, guys.